Why is Israel always held to a double standard? Check out this clip from Douglas Murray where he goes through some of the most popular double standards in which Israel is held to. We'll watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
Just remember that when we lost hundreds of Parisians in a night, we did not have to deal with a world saying you don't have the right to destroy ISIS unless you have no civilian casualties in the process of doing so. We did not have to face endless pundits who knew nothing about on the ground the reality of the war, telling the French and British that, you know, had we not thought about collateral damage, or maybe ISIS can't be destroyed, maybe if we kill members of ISIS, we'll just make more ISIS, and so on. These are all the arguments that are only used against Israel when it's fighting against Hamas. And by the way,
but perhaps they're used there and not here because they apply there and not here. I mean, Israel does create more members of Hamas by killing members of Hamas.
Really?
Of course it does.
That's your view.
People are radicalized.
No, that's your view. That's not, of course.
You think it's incorrect?
I think somebody like Yahya Sinwar was a very unusual figure. I don't believe you keep creating Sinwars. I'll tell you what, but on the bigger point, when people claim that if Israel responds militarily in Gaza in any way, it will simply continue to create Hamas.
Well, there's a difference between in any way and in this way. I think that you're eliding something quite important.
Okay, well, I think that the Israeli Defense Forces, from my observation, have done the job they've had to do in Gaza of trying to get back the 250 stolen Israelis who were kidnapped from their homes and from the Nova Music Festival, and to kill or capture the leadership of Hamas. I think they have done it in the most expert way possible. Doesn't mean there haven't been mistakes made along the way. Of course, that's the nature of warfare. But they have done it in the most expert way possible. If anyone else in this studio or anywhere else in London or around the world has a plan for how you get back 250 hostages being held in underground tunnels, underneath hospitals, mosques, and in civilian houses, and how you would capture or kill the leadership of the terrorist group who did that, please send me an email of your battle plan, and I will send it on to anyone in Jerusalem I can.
Understood.
But just quickly, on the other point, of the, as it were, if you try to kill the terrorists or to destroy the terrorists, you only create more terrorists. Throughout history, there have been times when you could have claimed this, and it is not the case. And it cannot be the case in this situation if the following thing happens. Just very quickly.
I'm sorry, but that's not the argument I presented you with. It's not if you kill the terrorists, it's if you cause collateral damage in killing the terrorists, which is quite different.
But the Allies managed to destroy the dreams of Imperial Japan against the most unbelievably brainwashed people.
Yes.
And the dream that the God Emperor would ever give in and admit defeat was impossible to concede. Were there collateral damages among the Japanese people? Yeah, I think so. There's some rather famous examples. But we destroyed, the Allies destroyed that, another death cult in Imperial Japanese ideas. There is no reason why Hamas should be regarded as such a brilliant and appealing group that they too cannot be utterly defeated at some point.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to come back to that. There are two more questions I'd really like to ask you. Sure. I know we're a little bit pushed for time. You clearly know Palestinians. You write in the book that you actually lived in Ramallah 10 years ago, which I did not know this. Yeah. You also visit an Israeli prison for captured Hamas fighters in the book. You say you spent hours there, but you don't quote anybody there. You don't paraphrase anybody there. You say, although I saw people I knew from the atrocity videos, there was nothing to learn from them. Why are Palestinian voices so absent from this book? So many have died. Why are they not in this book about the war in their region?
Well, they are in the book, and I describe.
They're not first person in the book. They're not present in the book. They're discussed in the book.
Quite a few who are, and they include people like the very brave. You might call him a Palestinian. Some people might call him a Palestinian, but one of the great heroes of the day, who I quote, a great Arab Muslim Israeli doctor whose story I wanted to bring out. So I do, but I just would add. Because I sense that this critique might come. When I'm in Ukraine, which I was again the other week with Ukrainian armed forces, I'm never asked why I don't hop over the front line and go and speak with Vladimir. Hang on, let me finish.
You're in a prison with Hamas fighters there.
Hang on, let me finish.
Yeah.
I'm not asked why I don't hop over the kilometre of no man's land and speak to Vladimir Putin's soldiers.
I wasn't asking why you didn't go to Gaza.
I'm just saying that in reporting a war in general of this kind, it is... it's as tough to get Hamas to host you in their homes as it is to get Vladimir Putin to do so.
That's not what I asked you at all. I mean, you say you go into this prison full of Hamas fighters. You say you spend hours
I'm very
there.
careful about what I say about that
I understand
for very sensitive reasons.
You say, although I saw people I knew from the atrocity videos, there was nothing to learn from them. How is there nothing to learn? This is the whole thing. These are the genocidal people who are conducting. How can there be nothing to learn from them?
Because they'd already told me and everyone everything by what they did. They'd already told us everything.
So dialogue was impossible. There was not 2 words to learn from them to put in a quote and put in the book.
As I said, there are very sensitive reasons why I can't directly quote in the book the people who carried out the atrocities and were captured.
You identify one of them. You say who he is.
You've just got to accept the fact that I've written around that
I
problem
understand.
because, for reasons of sensitivity, I can't go into the.
I understand. Look, I think probably finally you wrote this book before Donald Trump started talking about the Gaza Riviera, before he started talking about the absolute, one assumes he says temporary, some people say temporary, ethnic cleansing of Gaza. What do you think of those policies? And if that's not the end game that you approve of in this region, what is the end game you approve of in this region? I know that's a huge question. I appreciate.
The president did not suggest ethnic cleansing.
He did.
He did not suggest ethnic cleansing.
He said the population of Gaza should be shipped out.
Yeah, he did not suggest ethnic cleansing. He said that anyone who wants to get out should be able to get out.
He didn't just say that.
Yes, he did.
That's not correct.
Yes, he did. He and his administration have made it clear that of all the people in war zones around the world, whether it's Ukraine, Myanmar, whether it's Syria, the appalling conflict there in the last decade, people have been able to move. They've been able to get out of the zone of war.
Absolutely.
Okay? In Gaza, because of the international obsession with keeping the citizens of Gaza in Gaza and the fact that the Egyptians don't want to get their former protectorate back or anything like that, the people of Gaza, as I have seen up close, have been having to go back and forth at the advice of the IDF from the areas where the IDF needs to engage Hamas, and they say, everyone who isn't Hamas, go.
Yeah.
We need to fight here. So why should this population have to keep going from Gaza City to Rafah to Khan Yunis or thing? Why not allow anyone who wants to leave the zone of war to leave the zone of war, is what Donald Trump suggested. Has he put a major 15-step plan in place? Not yet. But I believe that has been a very important paradigm shift. And if I could quickly say so, this is the reason why. Until President Trump said that, nobody had any idea of what to do to resolve this other than whenever the last hostages are back in Israel, dead or alive, hopefully mainly alive, whenever the leadership of Hamas is utterly destroyed, and it's almost there, what is everyone else's plan for Gaza? The plan is effectively the European plan, the British plan, every other know-nothing's plan, which is, why don't we pour billions of dollars back into the Gaza,
and wait for
allow international organizations like UNRWA to misgovern it again, bring up another generation of Gazans to hate their neighbors and believe the greatest good in life is to annihilate the Jewish state. And then at some point in the coming years, Hamas or a similar group will do the same thing again, and then the IDF will have to go in again. That is basically the only plan that was on the table until President Trump said maybe the people who want to leave should be able to leave.
I think it's disingenuous to say that all that Donald Trump has suggested that maybe the people who want to leave should leave.
But one other.
I have to ask you.
No, but it's really important because there is much mishearing about this. Just one other thing, because you asked me my view.
Yes.
I said since the beginning of this conflict, this cannot be the umpteenth Gaza war. It has to be the last. It can't be the third Lebanon war. It should be the last Lebanon war. For that to happen, the international community, and not just Israel alone, has to permit the destruction of Hamas and the destruction of Hezbollah and the throttling by financial means, hopefully successfully, of the Iranian revolutionary government, which has been colonizing the Middle East in our lifetimes, which has colonized Iraq, colonized Syria, colonized Lebanon, colonized Yemen, and has colonized Gaza. If that were to happen, then there is a possibility at a future date to create the kind of state again, because the Gazans were given a state in 2005, another chance to do this and to reboot, and this time maybe to resist the urge that so many of us do resist, to fire rockets at our neighbors. And in the meantime, final short point, in the meantime, there is a price to pay in all wars to continually trying to annihilate your neighbor and losing.
Yes,
and that includes losing land. There is no God-given right that the people of Gaza should stay in every inch of Gaza if they keep launching and losing wars against their neighbor. Any other state in history, any other group in history, when you start and lose wars repeatedly, you pay a price. Okay. And Hamas has to pay the price.
So look, we began by talking about the problem was Hamas. Now the cost is to be paid by the people of Gaza. I think there's a problem there.
No, in that case I have to answer that, because they voted in Hamas when they were given the chance, and for 18 years Hamas governed the Gaza. I would wish that the citizens of Gaza had risen up at some point in the last 18 years, but they didn't. And there is another principle in war, which is if you are governed by such a group, if you vote in a death cult, knowing its aims, knowing its beliefs, and they govern you for 18 years, sorry, the line between the citizens of Gaza and Hamas becomes at best very blurry.
Okay,
I mean, I dream like you do that there is a peaceful Jeffersonian subsection of the Gazan population which can't wait to get roaring, but you show me them.
I understand. Look, finally, and absolutely finally, we've talked at the beginning of this interview about the terrible slaughter inflicted upon Israelis on October the 7th. You look at Gaza now, people exist among rubble, among the corpses of their dead relatives. Tens of thousands of people have died. It has to be currently one of the most horrific places on earth to be. Do you see any cost, any damage that Israel could inflict upon Gaza, any cost that would be paid by the Gazan people because of what happened? That is too much. Is there anything that would be too much? Is there anything that Israel could do where you'd be this is too far? And if so, where do we hit that point for you?
Well, if the IDF was, for instance, deliberately massacring civilians, that would obviously be a war crime and would not be correct. But it hasn't happened.
That's the line.
Whose?
I'm asking you. That's your line.
Well, if Israel were committing war crime after war crime, then that would be a line, but it's not.
I mean, what? 2% of the population are dead?
No, I don't believe that figure. First of all, the death tolls, of course, as you know, and we can get into it, but it might not be worth it. The death toll figures are all given to us by Hamas, by the Hamas ministries in Gaza.
They may be incorrect, but they're still going to be big.
They're wildly inflated, and of course, they never include their brave terrorist fighters who die in their much sought cause of death. But there's no point in having the numbers discussion. I concede that a large number of Palestinians have been killed in Gaza during this conflict. Military experts reckon that it's probably one of the lowest civilian to terrorist ratios in any modern conflict, possibly in any conflict.
Yes.
And that is because of remarkable work by the young men and women of the IDF. And I have been with them enough and seen them enough to know they do not go into these war zones. They do not go into Gaza in order to rape or kill or any of the other smears that have been made against the IDF in the last 18 months, the citizens of Gaza. I have seen with my own eyes people who have lost limbs in the IDF. I've been to the funerals of men who have died in Gaza because they were booby-trapped by Hamas, because they were fired at by Hamas from mosques, because they were killed as they were trying to save civilian life. And the hundreds and hundreds of young men, mainly of the IDF, who have lost their lives in the last 18 months, have lost their lives because of the manner of war they've been fighting, which is one that not only tries to minimize casualties on their own side, but to minimize casualties on the opposition's side. If the IAF or IDF had sought to commit a genocide in Gaza, it could have done, and it didn't, and it hasn't. It is fighting a bloody, dangerous, booby-trapped war against a death cult that wants to annihilate the state of Israel. And I think that of all of the smears that I've heard in the world outside Israel in the last 18 months, very few come alongside that one in deliberately misunderstanding
the accusation of genocide.
War aims of the Israeli government and the extraordinary heroism of the civilian army, which has found itself having to fight a neighbor when not one of those young officers, soldiers, cadets would not have dreamed of being able to live in peace with their fellow citizens in the Gaza. Not one of the people who was dancing at the Re'im Music Festival was not dreaming of the day they could dance with their Palestinian brothers. Not one person in the kibbutz in the south of Israel was not dreaming of the day they could live in peace with their Gazan neighbors. And not one man or woman fighting in Gaza for the IDF in the last 18 months has not dreamed of the day when they don't have to speak about Gaza again because they live in peace with them.
Right, that is correct. Israel does not want this war, nor does it want to continue going through this and having to have it shut down a little bit, let a few years go by till the next attack, have to go in, and so forth. They want to uproot the terrorists that are there once and for all. And for all the people that claim that there is a genocide going on, why is the suggestion that those that want to leave the genocide-ridden area that they can be able to go somewhere else? Why is that considered like this disastrous idea? And it's people are laughing at it, and why if there is a genocide going on? There's not, but if there were, why wouldn't you want to allow people to go to a different place, at least temporarily, until all of the chaos has come to a stop? There are two primary goals in this war, and that is to get back the hostages and to eradicate Hamas. The reason to eradicate Hamas is not only for the good of the Israelis, it's for the good of the Palestinians as well. Right? No one wants to live in terror. No one should want to live in terror. No one should have to live in terror. And what the IDF is doing right now in eliminating the terrorists and making sure those tunnels are destroyed and any vestige of terrorist activity is wiped out completely, that is going to promote peace long term in the region for all people. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.